Well, here we go again. Another like behind the scenes goalie cave type video. If you caught yesterday's or my last video, you heard me give you a little spiel about maybe a little new style to some of these videos and some different types of videos that are going to be coming out, and maybe just to kind of keep everybody involved, I decided I'd knock out another video. This time we're going to do a little bit of show and tell slash questions and answers. I get a lot of questions. I've got some more unique one-off type questions, maybe that aren't as common. So I figured I would touch base on those a little bit. So today we are stationed at my work desk. I literally, my day job, I work down here. I usually hang a white curtain behind me here because I do a lot of video calls with coworkers, employees, vendors, and so on. And I kind of hide my goalie world that's behind me here by doing that. So I figured today I would set up over here at the computer and give you a little peek from this view. Down there is where I was in that last video, facing down towards this side. I did do a little bit of cleaning and organizing, even though I said I don't mind the messes, and you guys seeing some of the messes, which to a degree there is a lot of mess around here still. The sewing desk over there, that's a bit of a mess. And I have another 5 or 6 foot work desk right over here to my left that is still pretty messy. I did organize a little bit. I said yesterday there were some masks and pieces and stuff. Well, I kind of just put everything together, pieces that belong together and stuff, and put them on an empty spot on the shelf back where I was in the last video. There was an empty shelf there. And actually, a while back, I think I've showed a few pictures on Instagram maybe. A while back, I redid the shelving behind me here, this whole corner. Normally all my shelving is kind of like locker style, where I put, you can see it here on the leather pads at the bottom, then I hang gloves, then I put blockers, and then there's combos or masks or whatever up on the top shelf, and then I have hooks on the ends, the corners there, that I hang extra gloves because I run out of room and I try to keep things together. So these shelves back here, I did a little different, and I'll scoot away here for a second so you can see. These are really just big, flat, open shelves. And then on the uprights, I put hooks to put glove pairs. You'll see a couple empty spots like right there and right there. There should be blockers there. Those are ones from the last video where I showed how I touch up. So those are actually hanging by heat vents down here in the basement, so that waterproof spray will dry nice. So these are all on that shelf over there. That is all Legends. And then we have Reactor 4 and 5 right there next to it. The ones on the top are kind of project pads. And then the back wall is all Reactor 5, I believe. I have a spot for one more set of pads. But then when I do that, all those miscellaneous gloves are going to have to find a new home. So eventually I'll be figuring out another way to display and store all this stuff. Hey, look, actually right there is one of those blockers hanging right here above me. There's a heat vent right up there. So anyway, there you go. There's a little bit more about the goalie cave. And then I figured, like I said, I had a few questions. I just wanted to get started with that. So let me grab that note and oh, this one's going back a ways. So a while back, I did I think a 2-part video series on like the evolution of the SK2000 helmet. Somebody asked a good question on that, and because I never really touched on it, I don't think, in any of those videos, but where does the SK2500 fit into the timeline? Because if you've ever seen a 2500, it looks just like a 2000. And I'll tell you, the 2500 was introduced at the end of the CanStar Cooper era. So 1992, they introduced it as the new top-of-the-line helmet right above the 2000 model. Basically, it was an SK2000 shell, but it didn't use the bumpers. So it had flatter sides, didn't have the sidebar pieces. Assumingly, they determined those break too easy from pucks and hits and checks into the boards and so on. And that was a great way for them to continue the model of the helmet with less expendable pieces, replaceable pieces, so that the helmet would still get used. The only other difference really that I've noticed about it is they changed the foam. So the original foam was your standard Rubatex foam. The 2500, they switched it and they called it their new improved Sentinel, trademark word there, Sentinel foam. And you could tell in the catalogs, I personally don't have a 2500, never had one, but it's a white foam. And I really think that they switched to more of what like I use, which is a mini cell foam. Very similar characteristics. I think it lasts longer as far as waterproof and sweat proof. It doesn't seem to harden from the salts of your sweat and stuff, which is what really kills this stuff. Here's one of my die cut pieces that I use when I replace the foam on mine. So I think it's a lot closer to this type of foam. So there you go. That's the answer to that one. That's it was introduced in 1992's catalog and very, very similar. They did market it as the Super Pro model. So that was from that was a question from Christopher LaSalvia on my YouTube video. So Christopher, thanks for posting that question. Okay, so another question that came up in it, I actually, so this was on my mind for a while too. If you remember a while back, I did a string of videos where I wore Reactor 5s and I kept having strap issues. And I believe the last, there was like 3 videos in a row where I had strap issues. And the last one that I did, I think it was the Montreal Canadiens video, my strap, an important strap broke, a boot strap, skate strap. And I had a real hard time in the locker room in panic mode because I was already running late and so on, running a new strap through. My method of doing that has always been like I use a plastic like picnic knife, you know, tableware knife, plastic one. Get rid of the serrated edge on it, and it always works really good for running through the strap. It's the great width. A little hockey tape the strap to it, run that through, poke it back through, get it through there. It's a great shape, works really well. The problem was I didn't realize it, and probably just from beating around in my hockey bag for so long, my knife snapped, and now it wasn't long enough to get through. So this came from user on YouTube here, Jayzees. He left me a comment, which I'm aware of. I know lots of people do it, but he commented about using a coat hanger to run a strap through a pad. Now, I know a lot of people do that, and I know it was common back in the day. I don't do that. This gear is all 30, 35, 40 years old. Running a pokey coat hanger through is just nothing but bad news in my book. It's gonna end up poking through a material and causing damage, and I just don't want to deal with that. On top of that, it's a narrow coat hanger. If you've ever dealt with, especially like any pad that has polyfoam running through the shins or whatever, when you pull a strap out, man, that foam all just goes and closes up. So while you can get a coat hanger through there, you've got this rat's nest blocking the strap going through. You need something a little wider. Now, that being said, there is a tool. There's a strap puller tool, usually I think 10 to 14 inches long. It's very thin metal. You slide the strap in. It's shaped to a dull point. You run that through. I don't know. Don't quote me on this, but I know that in conversations with Glenn Miller over the years, he has told me that way back in the 70s, I think, his dad like fashioned one for him, like invented it or something. I'm not sure. And that's what he uses. He has a handful of those he had made up. And I know there is one vendor, Stu Gould in Chicago, that I believe still has an inventory of these things. So you can always look up Stu Gould, Good as Gould, goaltending. And I think you can just shoot him a call and order one. They're $20-something or whatever. But when I a while back, just a couple months ago or whatever, I think I was running straps through another pad and really was like trying to come up with a better way. And that thought came to me about his tool. So I made one. I had a sheet of thin sheet metal sitting around. So I took a strap, overlaid it, used a marker to outline it so that I would be thicker than the strap. I have some Cutco super shears, I think they call them, cut through anything. And I used it to cut out the shape so it was twice as long as I needed. Then I did a bend. So it was just a rectangle at first. I did a bend directly in half. Okay. Then I cut the corners off up here to kind of bullnose that. French cut, I believe that's called. French point. I used a Dremel with a grinding disc thing on it. Smoothed off all the edges so there's no sharp edges at all on this thing, including the corners. I rounded off down there. Now I can slide my strap up inside of here, pinch it tight, and I have a stiff object that I can feed up through the strap slot. When it gets out, pull it, feed it down through, pull it out, and then you just pull your strap out. This is exactly the concept of how these things work. The real ones do. I'm going to make a couple more of these. That way I always have one in my tool bag as well, and then a couple here because I misplace and lose stuff all the time. Thought I'd share that with you. So Jay-Z's, thank you for your comment. Another comment, this one's from Naval Power Skating, and this was on yesterday's, the video I did down at the other end of the hall here. Naval Power Skating asked, wanting to know about how or where to get logos redone on pads. This is really tricky. So I work in computers. I've been in graphic design and stuff for many years. I used to own a small bespoke print shop years and years ago. So I have a lot of graphics ability and software on my computers, and I have a small vinyl cutter and all that stuff. And I'll show you this here. I found this one kicking around up here on my desk. This was just part of a Cooper logo on heat press, cut on heat press vinyl. It's just been kicking around here. I think what happened was I forgot to scale it when I cut it, so it came out really big, and I needed it for a knee roll, so it was obviously way too big. I just left it laying around up here. But so from my point of view, it's not super difficult to do all the prep work. So I can do graphic design. A lot of times what I'll do is, because you really can't find these graphics available online. So a lot of times what I'll do is, if I can't find a logo, I'm trying to find something here with a logo on it. Like here's a Beats logo. If I couldn't find a digital clean copy of that, I'll take a good square clean photo of that, put it on my computer, and then redraw over top so I get all the scaling right, all the dimensions, all the perspective, and so on. And then I'll take that file and I use it to cut on heat transfer vinyl and then apply it to the pads. That being said, it's a difficult science when you're dealing with a pre-assembled built pad, right? When these things were made, all that stuff was applied beforehand. So, and back in the day, a lot of them were done with a screen print type of technology, not heat transfer vinyl. Nowadays, a lot of it is heat transfer vinyl. But again, they're dealing with flat, square pieces of material that they're putting on a press, and everything's pristine and perfect conditions. You don't get that with a pre-built pad like this. You got to remember, like that knee roll has cushioning behind it. So it's really hard to get the right amount of pressure for this to be applied the right way. The other thing to keep in mind is you're dealing with like a knee roll, which is about 2 inches convex. And you need to get heat onto this without touching other surfaces of the pad with the iron or craft iron or whatever you're using, because you can't really put it in a heat press. There's no way to do that. This is difficult, but if you find yourself wanting to do it, if you can't figure this part out yourself, there's 2 steps you can do. First of all, find a local vinyl sign person. Somebody that does graphics for quad runners and does signs for local businesses and stuff. Small shop. And go talk to them, because a lot of times they'll do this kind of work fairly quickly and easily for you. They may do the graphic work as well. If they won't, or if they want to charge a lot of money for that, find yourself a good clean image of the logo you want, and go to a website called Fiverr, Fiverr.com. Find somebody that can convert the graphic to, or the photo logo into a graphic file that your vinyl person can use to cut the transfer vinyl. That's another thing too. Like, look at like Facebook Marketplace, Etsy. Like, everybody's selling stuff on Etsy. Everybody's got a Cricut machine nowadays. So you'll find somebody local that'll cut these for you at not too much money. So I hope I answered that for you as well. So anyway, there we go. First time I've done one of those. A few questions answered. A little bit of show and tell about the place here, the Goalie Cave, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. And I'll sign this off the way I did the last time. Don't forget, if you like vintage goalie brand and you like pioneers and legends, my friend Matt at Vintage Goalie is offering a discount for people that view my videos. You can go to vintagegoalie.ca, use coupon code or discount code or promo code. I'm not sure how it's worded there. Cooper Goalie 15. You can get a discount on hoodies, sweatshirts, hats, and t-shirts. And there's some cool stuff there. So, as always, thanks for watching.